Tita, I learned to remember names from old what's his face.
Uh-huh.
Superb. Okay. Can you remember what you came here to talk about, James?
Yeah, sort of. I always make notes to help jog that memory of mine. But a couple of weeks ago, when I was talking about traveling on the train, after the fact, I thought of what felt like a potential helpful hint. I shared it with Aviva on the train at the time because so often you're not even sure what train you're on. And you you hope it's the right one, but once you establish you are on the right train, then it's like, how do you know where you are? When do I start looking for my station? How do I know this is the station I want? All those kinds of questions. You're just rolling along in the train, go, oh, it's beautiful, and here's another train station, and you roll right through, and oh, this is, you can lose track. So it might have even been my first time around in that confusion. I said, I know, I'll open my Maps app on my phone, and it will show me where I am,
Oh,
and
yes.
then I can track it along the ride. So that was very helpful. I knew where I was and what direction I was heading. I could verify, oh yeah, I'm definitely heading toward wherever I'm going. Um, that was helpful.
Yes.
The other piece was, how do I know what station this is? Because on some of the trains, like the only train I think, if I'm recalling correctly, that tells you where you're going is the AP. The other trains that are not, that don't have the electronic digital boards that tell you what station is coming up. Some of them don't even announce what's coming up. So what I've learned is it pays to pay attention to the train stations that you pull into. And in my experience, every train station has the name of the city that it's in at the train station if you look for it. So, if you do that every single train station on a 2.5 hour train ride, it could get a little repetitive, I guess.
Yeah.
But if you're tracking yourself on a map and oh, it's looking like I'm coming up, here's the next city that's on the map. I wonder if that's a train station. And you pull in, you can put two and two together, you can look for it, you can verify and say, oh, the next station is mine, or it's coming up very quick. I really need to pay attention. That to me was very helpful in my confusion about where I was the first time or two on the train heading north toward Porto. So I thought that might be helpful to people who are new to taking the trains. And
there's so many variables, aren't there, when you're taking a train in Portugal, as you've detailed in the last few weeks as well. And as exciting as it is, I think it can be a little bit stressful as well. So nice little tip there. Any others from our community? Gratefully received. The app is very good, isn't it? The CP.PT app, I think, is pretty good as well. That's a good place to start as well. That would be my tip. Baddie's with us. Bon Alegria from a dark, wet and grey Iceland. She's not selling it, is she? And that day when you're on the train with Aviva, I was no help at all. I got sick the day before. James was saying all this to me, and I heard his muffled voice while my head was spinning.
Well, that's good. So she didn't hear me repeating over and over. The last time I did this,
it was a general,
was different.
A reassuring presence in the background of like the teacher in Peanuts, I guess, is probably what you sounded like that. Yes. Colleen, speaking of trains, my son, who is here until Wednesday, and I are going to Lisbon today and gave up on the train app. So taking an Uber. CP.PT, was that not good for you, Colleen? I will figure it. I will someday figure it out. You will. There's time. And
it takes a little bit of adjustment, a little bit of familiarity.
Good pivot there, though, right? Like, I can't make this app work. That's it. I'm just going to get an Uber instead. There are options, thankfully, as well. That's wonderful. And the bus is good. That's the other thing to say about Portugal for Americans, especially. The bus is not the dreadful experience it can be in some other countries, right? The Greyhound bus has got a pretty bad reputation, isn't it, James?
Yeah. Well, and the only experience I have of long-term or long distance buses is actually Connie and Hank's experience. They take the Flixbus from Porto to Lisboa. It takes about the same amount it only takes 10 or 20 minutes longer than the train does. And I imagine it's because it only makes a couple stops along the way. And they say it's relatively comfortable, really comfortable for a bus. And the big selling point is that it's like €8 for a trip from Porto to Lisboa. It's, pretty, very inexpensive. So it's definitely an option. I don't know that I would try to use the local various city buses to go from place to place to place to hop way up. But yeah, as I understand it, there are buses like Flixbus that make the trip fairly quickly, fairly comfortably. They do have toilets on board, so you don't have to worry about making a pit stop somewhere, which is probably why they can go so fast. It's like they don't have to stop.
Okay, there you go, Colleen. Joel de Nort is here. This is what you must have come in a little bit late or misheard you, maybe, James. There's a cool app on the interweb called Google Maps. Really, that's pretty helpful to to know where you are.
And just in case there's other places you can go for maps and internet searches. Everything doesn't have to be Google, especially if you don't want every single thing you do tracked and then advertised to. So I tend to stay off Google unless I absolutely can't find what I want on something else.
But Apple Maps not great, are they?
That's what I use, and it works fine for me.
Okay, all right. Sorry, I in my head, this is how badly Google have got me. In my head, I just translated what you used as Google Maps.
Yep, and that's exactly what they want. So I'm just here to be the voice of a reminder. There's other ways to get good information.
Thank you. You're tuned into the Google Morning Portugal. Sorry, the Good Morning Portugal show this morning.
What was the name of that show again?
Don't be concerned if you find a ticket office closed before your intended train ride. Just get on and you can pay the agent on board. Helps to have some cash coins in hand. And they do have a card machine as well, don't they? Generally speaking, I think the rather handsome. They're uniformed staff and they look very good in their grey suits, I think.
Grey suits, yeah.
Some of them are very handsome, Mrs. M has shared with me. And she would buy probably a CP.PT calendar if there was one each year. And that's right, Alison. If the ticket office is shut, you just pay on the train. However, if there is a ticket office open and you get on the train without buying a ticket, they can be a bit eggy about that. I've done that at Aveiro. So when I used to travel from Korea to Aveiro, Korea didn't have a station, so I'd get on. I didn't have a ticket office, so I'd get on the train and pay on the train. And I thought, okay, I'll do the same coming the other way. I got told off. And with kids the other day, they need to see the ID, as you found out, James. They need to see the ID of children if you're trying to buy a children's ticket. Even if there are 40 children, they need to see each and every one. And that was another little bollocking I got from a guy at Caldas de Rainha railway station just recently.
Yeah, my experience has had the people on board who are checking your tickets and so on. They've run the gamut from being the friendliest Portuguese person I've ever met, willing to engage in a conversation in very good English, to some guy who's hated his job since the day he started and just wants you to shut up and do it right. So, I think you're just gonna.
I met him. Yes.
So you'll get what you get, and I think that's good common Portuguese. Well, maybe just human knowledge, but for the most part, they're very friendly. And I've had guys who have asked me for my ID, for a passport, for a copy of my ticket, and I've had guys just look at me, say my name, and carry on.
And they say, could you bend over as well? Only kidding. Right. There's a cool map then, says John, whose picture we're going to show. Now, John, thank you for sending this lovely picture of you and Pam in Vigo, I believe, where you've been. Visiting the Christmas market in Vigo. The whole city centre is shut down to auto traffic each evening and the lights come on at 6:30. Looks very beautiful there. Now, I'm not going to be showing too many Christmas lights until the 1st of December. We'll do what we've done in previous years, which is light up Christmas, everybody. So keep sending the pictures in by all means, but we'll save the best of them until the 1st of December when I think it's right to do so. And
I personally appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, it's a pleasure. And it's Vigo, I think it's a very interesting place. It's a little bit of a sneak peek of some Christmas lights there. But more to the point, popping into Vigo from Portugal up there in Spain, where there's also a very handy airport, given that we're talking about transportation so much this morning. So thanks for that lovely picture there. Lots of love to you and Pam. there, John. What else are people saying here about public transport? It's turned into quite a nice little topic. Thank you for the suggestion. Alison, yes, with her ticket office advice there. And Pam, I use the Red Expressos bus to Lisbon, much preferable to driving in Lisbon. Free Wi-Fi too. True, very good. And Pam was at TEDx over the weekend, as we heard earlier. I thought I had a picture of it somewhere. Yes, I do. Here it is, the TEDx picture. Como nos podemos preparar para el futuro con inteligencia artificial. So quite the emphasis on artificial intelligence in a rather nice looking building as well. The connection there, I think, of ancient and modern, probably they did it in the monastery there. Artificial intelligence against a monastic backdrop. All the best that Portugal has to offer there. I think that second guy was trained on UK trains. That's why he's so grumpy, James, is Pam's theory there.
Could be.
There are fewer trains in Portugal now than there were under Salazar. Sorry, but public buses always remind me of Train Spotting. Train Spotting, the film, not trying to figure out if someone is or isn't trans. Train Spotting, not transpotting. Yes, I didn't notice that typo.
That one said transporting, by the way, that first word.
Oh, really? He's
Yes.
talking about Train Spotting. So everybody, oh, yes, and transporting the film. No, Pete, Train Spotting the film. And we got some pictures of his seat festival that he was at over the weekend as well. Apple is so bad that in Silicon Valley, when a new software product fails, they say it's Apple Maps bad. It's become the standard for that. Apple Maps has really messed us up in Porto a couple of times. However, excellent last trip down to Caldas da Rainha area. He's still using it and helping them, presumably.
Yeah, mind you, I'm not using it for navigation. I'm just, other than locating where I am in Portugal on a train, that's about all the navigation I do with my phone. So
if it fails that test, it definitely needs bidding, doesn't it? Like if it can't tell you your nearest city, that is Apple Maps bad, as it were.
It's worse than Apple Maps bad then.
Unfortunate reality is that pretty much every app tracks your location and metadata. It's just the time we live in. Yeah. And it's only our fabricated personality, isn't it? It's not our true soul or being. It's just a little fabrication that we've created in the world that, as far as I'm concerned, in many ways, those purveyors of digital software are welcome to, quite frankly. It's not the real me.